This episode is brought to you by the members of the You Run Podcast Network. All of their shows and our own can be found at yourunpodcast.com, along with links to our socials and to our shop. So please head over to yourunpodcast.com today and find your next podcast experience. We are the home of entertainment.
Eddie, dance! Dance, Winslow! Dance! Come on, you like to what do here? How we got to the work last year? Into the same we just found it. We got one in a big dog.
You want to die tonight?
The dad jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled.
Hello and welcome to the You Run Podcast. My name is Scott.
My name is Mark.
Happy New Year and welcome to the interactive horror movie review show run and controlled by all of you, our listeners, and all of our followers on social media. That's right. Every single week you get to pick the movies, you get involved with polls and games and all sorts of cool stuff. And to do that, you need to go to @YouRunPodcast on whatever social media you're on and get involved with the show. Every single social media this year has got a new way to play with the show, which is cool.
Nice.
If you want to know where our socials are, go to yourunpodcast.com. The links for all of them are there. There's also the link to our shop. There's also a link to our true crime and to our YouTube shows and to all the other members of the You Run Podcast Network as well. If you are doom scrolling Instagram, which I know lots of you do while you listen to this show, type into the search bar VHS from the Crypt and click follow. Then type in reviews from the Crypt and click follow again. And then you'll be following my fabulous co-host, the wonderful Mark.
Hey.
Is that all I get? Like I put so much effort
I don't know
into
what
picking
more
you
you
up.
expected me from it. I don't know what much more you expected there.
There have been a few tweaks to the show for 2025. Nothing major. And if you're a regular listener, you'll pick these up as you go along. If this is your first time listening, thank you firstly for kicking off the year with us as your brand new podcast. I'm going to give you a brief overview of how it works. We'll give you a summary of the movie before we go into more depth of what we liked, what we didn't like. We are very spoiler heavy. If you haven't seen the movie, we are going to ruin it for you. You've been pre-warned, so we will give you everything. And there's things we'll say that you may not want to hear, especially with a movie like we're covering today. After the review, we've got some interactive features, we've got some facts, and we'll announce the winner of our long-running competition to win merch from the You Run Podcast store, available at yourunpodcast.com.
Lovely.
Yeah. Are you here today? Like, yay! And
Man, I'm a bit down, man. I've got like this little weird flu virus thing. I'm all right. I'm just like very nasally and all the rest of it. So if you hear me like
sound quite
snoring and
seductive.
coughing, yeah, I feel like that episode of Friends where Phoebe was like really, really sexy when she sang, which was out of the norm. I keep quoting Friends a lot these days, and I don't mind, but I haven't watched that show in years. I think it's just one of those ones that stays with you forever, isn't it?
Are you going to sing with us for us now?
No, dude, honestly, you do not want to hear me singing. My singing is almost as bad as my accents. Okay. We all know how that plays out.
We do. This week also kicks off 12 months of themed months on the show, and we're kicking off with Arthouse Horror. So for an entire
We're not, are we? We're not. Let's get this right. We're doing a Robert Eggers month.
We kind of are, but it's Arthouse Horror. So this is what's commonly known as elevated horror. We've got 2 poll pick movies. We've got a listener request, and we've also got a new release. Today, we're covering the listener requests that come in, and this is what kind of inspired this whole month to begin. The request coming from Dave B Movies, who I found out last week has not seen the movie that he requested, so he's now watching it.
Who was it who did that to us before? It was arachnophobia when Eric requested it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I really want you guys to do arachnophobia. It's like, yeah, all right, dude, no worries. Messaged him like, what did you think of it? He's like, oh, I don't know, I haven't even seen it. I was like, fuck you.
So Dave's done the same, but he is watching it before this episode's there.
He messaged me today. I don't know if he's phoned in or anything, but he messaged me today and he said, obviously on the Terminator episode when I was like getting all my rant on about just losing my mind over trying to keep track of the timelines kind of thing, he messaged me and he said, oh yeah, if that bothers you so much, then think about who wrote the Chuck Berry song in the Back to the Future timeline. And I'm like, shit, like I nearly had an aneurysm thinking about it today, trying to go back and like
he commented that on the actual episode as well, and I sat there and went, oh, Chuck Berry, of course. Oh no, he was there. He played it, and Chuck Berry heard it through the phone. Oh my god!
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough.
But you can request movies here. You can't do it very easily. You can't just drop us a DM. That's not how it works. You need to send us an audio message. You can do that on X or Instagram. Record the message, send it to us. We'll play it on the air. If it's really, really good, it'll get straight to an episode. If it's really bad, like if you request like the worst movie ever, and me and Mark go, absolutely not, we'll put it in a poll and we'll let our listeners decide. You can also request a movie, yourunpodcast@gmail.com. If you're going to do it this way, you need to give us a sales pitch in your email, and I'm going to get Mark to read it on the air in whatever accent you'd like.
No, we're not bringing the accent. I knew I shouldn't have said that.
You really shouldn't. Before we get into this week's episode, please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Those are the things that are so important to help us grow. We had a fabulous 2024, but if everyone who listened done all of those things, I'm not joking, we would be fucking ginormous as a show. If everyone who listened to us gave us a 5-star review, we'd be knocking around in the top 10 on Apple Podcasts.
Which is incredible.
It
is
really
achievable.
It is really achievable. Everyone listening now, leave us a review and you will watch us skyrocket up, and then we'll become so like big-headed and full of our own self-importance that you'll all mean nothing to us. But do it anyway.
Not me, man. I'll stay grounded.
You'll stay grounded. You could be the grounded one. I could be the one like going to like parties with Mr. Beast and stuff. Anyway, young man Winslow has worked every job imaginable and finally finds himself on a remote New England island to take up his new role as an assistant lighthouse keeper, or a wickie. He's heard the money is good and better the more remote of lighthouse you work in, so he's chosen the most remote, desolate place to take up his post. He may have... I can't... Let me try that again. I wrote really good intro and fucked it up again. I'm getting good at this. He may have made other plans, though, if he'd have known he was going to be stuck there with a strict, drunk, often salty Thomas, who makes his daily chores seem far much worse than they actually are. After Winslow kills a seagull that allegedly contains the soul of a fallen seaman, they are hit by unrelenting storm that sees them stranded together for weeks. As time progresses, Winslow desperately wants to work the light as he's seen Thomas hang out there naked regularly. We're going to talk about that a lot. Naked light bulb bathing. It's the future.
Yeah, I'll let you finish your monologue, but yeah, I have thoughts.
Yeah, this leads to a tense and laid-bare look into the descent of madness, alcoholism, and the desire of power and control, complete with masturbation, murder, and a mermaid pussy. A sentence I never thought I would say on this show, featuring standout performances from Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson, and one of my favourite actors ever, Steven Seagal. Today we take a look at the Robert Eggers film, The Lighthouse, from 2019.
Smooth, man. Very smooth.
I thought so. I nearly lost it again on Mermaid Pussy.
Oh man, what a fucking movie! What a movie! to be honest with you, I don't know where to start with this. I don't know what's best to do because it's not really a movie that's worth going through pace by pace. Because let's be honest with you, it's a pretty slow burner.
Well,
It
I think
drags.
understatement. Slow burn is like a slow burn moves at a steady, slow pace for the first 50 minutes.
Hour. Yeah.
Yeah, hour. This doesn't move. It doesn't do
No.
anything. Visually, that's where I want to start. Visually,
Yeah, I
this
think that's a good
is
place.
incredible. Like,
Man, most beautifully shot movie I have seen in as long as I can remember. I understand the praise that Robert Eggers gets. And let me just say now, this is the first interaction I've had with Robert Eggers. I haven't seen The Witch, I haven't seen The Northman and stuff like that. I haven't seen anything other than this. This was the first one I'm doing. And thankfully enough, I've got another 2 to come in this month alone.
yeah,
But I don't know if this was the best place for me to start with him as a director because I feel
no,
like although this is a very, very beautifully shot movie, and you can see he is a phenomenal director with some of the cinematography that he uses in this film, it is so far removed from the standard of what normal cinema is. And I know that's a weird thing to say, like normal cinema. What
uh,
is normal cinema? I just mean it's a
yeah,
very, very arty movie.
it really is. I mean, it's shot in like almost a 1:1 aspect ratio. It's shot in a
Yes.
square frame. It's
Yeah.
black and white. It's incredibly dark. So like not dark as in like dark in tone. It is, but like scenes that they shoot when they're lit by candlelight, you really struggle to see them. Like the
Yeah.
dialogue is really authentic. So when they're speaking, there's a lot of times that I've gone, sorry, say that again now. What did you I didn't catch that. What was
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I watched an interview with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, and they were both talking about how the most challenging aspect of this movie was keeping the dialogue and the accents authentic to the sea shanty sort of thing that they were going for. And I mean, Robert Pattinson, I've seen many movies. That dude is a British dude who probably has the best accents I've ever seen on any actor. He can pull anything off. But my God, Willem Dafoe
Including
in this
himself
movie.
in this movie
Yeah.
many times.
But man, Willem Dafoe, I knew he was an incredible actor. I knew that guy had range, but I was just mesmerized by his performance in this film. Like
It-
at one point, like I began to just lose track of that. These are two actors, you know, it was so authentic and so genuine. And the chemistry between the two of them as it unfolds is just so on point. And I don't know if they got any awards from this, but they certainly should have done.
they definitely should have, but no, it's horror, so of course they got snubbed across the board. One thing with Willem Dafoe, as good as he is, and like some of his monologue rants that are done in a single take that are like 3.5, 4 minutes long are incredible. But there are times just in general conversation when he just sounds like this. Like there's so many
Oh
times,
man.
like Robert Pattinson will say something to him, and I understand Robert Pattinson. He speaks very eloquently, and I understand what he's saying. And literally, Willem Dafoe will go, banana. And like even Robert Pattinson's character, you see him sort of go, like
Yeah.
even he didn't get it. The story of this is great. Like I like the setup. I like that when Robert Pattinson gets there, the way they established like the pecking order. Like the first
Mm.
time Robert Pattinson challenges him, like, oh well, I think we should do it like this. He's like, I am the fucking. He basically goes, I am the man. You are my bitch. You do all my bitch chores, and you don't bitch about it. If you do, I'm going to write you up, and you'll never work in a lighthouse again. Is basically what he does.
Pretty much, yeah. But I like how they subtly introduce that aspect of it. Like they first start off where he refuses a drink for the toast, and you can see Robert Pattinson's character trying to show some sort of self-worth and authority by tipping the drink out and then pouring a glass of water, which Willem Dafoe's character knows is just full of piss and shit. But he sits and lets him drink it as if to say, right, now you've got yourself in check. This is what's going to happen, and this is how it's going to play out. And it gradually builds and builds between their interaction. The more Robert Pattinson's character gets pissed off about it, to that one point, which I thought was fucking brilliant, where he says you haven't swept the floor. You know, you've not done your duties. Do your duties. And he's like, I swept it. Which I genuinely believed he did. I just don't think it was good enough to his standard. And that whole thing about him sucking rust off a nail. If I tell you to do this, you do it. If I tell you to do this, you do it. And I was like, fucking hell, man. Such a cool presentation of authority, the way that he's dominating this character, but like in a gradual, slow build way where he's constantly just grinding him down and breaking him into nothing, to that point where you see Willem Dafoe's character explode, but not even in the way that it is in terms of doing the authority thing. It's when he does the you didn't like my lobster. You didn't like my lobster. And he just stands up, man, and the camera's looking at him from down below, and you see the shadows on his face. That is one of the greatest monologues I have heard in a movie in forever, man. He just goes off. And I have to assume that was done in one take, first time.
That was a one take thing. And that's where he's like, I call upon Poseidon and the ancient gods of the sea to smite you and all who should come from your seed. And it's all over the fact he didn't like his lobster. And at the end of that big, massive rant, Robert Pattinson's character goes, hey, your lobster's all right. He's like, oh, good.
Fine, have it your way. I like your lobster.
even little things like Robert Pattinson lugs like this big barrel of oil to light the lamp all the way upstairs.
Oh, yes.
He gets upstairs and William Dafoe gives him like a little oil can. He's like, this is enough for the lantern for the night. So if you fill this up and then take that all the way back down the stairs and put it where you found it, that'd be great.
Yeah, because he's obviously done it as if to say, well, why would I bring one up every day? Let me just do a shift now, take this big one up, and then it's up there for the week. He's like, no. That's not what I want you to do. You take this little one and you come up every day because this is enough for one day.
Yeah, but you can't go in the light. And I love this element of power and control that Willem Dafoe has of the light is my area. I'm the wiki of this house. I'm the only one who can go up through the light, and you must stay down here, do your chores, and go to bed when I go do the light. And Willem Dafoe does some weird stuff up in the light. So we see him the first night that Robert Pattinson sort of goes out for a smoke and he looks up and Willem Dafoe is like starfished in front of the light, just naked. I was like,
just
okay,
embracing the light.
Is it because it's warm?
It's odd. I mean, I don't know. So like, I left this movie really, really like confused and dumbfounded by what it was trying to visually represent. I left it. I went and did a bit of research afterwards, and I'm a big fan of Greek mythology. So like, I looked at it is very much the parallels of Greek mythology, and the lighthouse is supposed to represent Olympus, and then the story of Poseidon, not Poseidon, Poseidon's son's Prometheus.
Yeah.
And he's the one who gets like pecked alive on the mountainside by the crows, and they eat his liver and stuff. Like, I can't explain it in the way that this movie is trying to represent, but it's a case of Prometheus stealing the light from Olympus, and Willem Dafoe's character is meant to represent Zeus, and it does work in correlation to what they're trying to do in the movie. And it's really, really cool and really, really clever, especially when you get the payoff with Robert Pattinson's character at the end, getting mauled by the gulls on the rock face. So it's there if you understand it. I understand it on a basic level. I don't know fully enough to be able to like, right, well, this represents this represents that. Those of you who are like scholars in Greek mythology would probably watch this and be like, this is just fucking flawlessly well done. I'm not educated on that level to be able to do that, but I get it. I get the representations that they were showcasing, and it amplified my experience with the movie in hindsight. But that's where my issue lies with stuff like this sometimes. And I did this with X, and I know they're completely different movies altogether, but the fact that I have to watch something and then go off and spend like 3 hours worth of scrolling the internet to be able to understand what it's doing, and that's probably a me problem because I'm not educated enough to get it. But I don't feel like this is a movie that's advertised for scholars of Greek mythology alone. You know, I feel like if it's done for a basic general audience, then it should be able to be understood and presented in a way that basic general audiences should be able to get first time.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you on that. I think with this is a very this is a film that in 20 years' time, film students will still be looking at this film
Yeah.
and studying how it's been put together. Like this is for a film student, this is like the biggest wet dream ever. It's
Oh,
it's so nerdy. It's like beyond film nerdy. It's that level of sort of nerdiness. But one thing they did put in this that surprised me is a really basic level of fart and semen jokes that I did not expect. Like Willem Dafoe is constantly like
yeah.
to the point that Robert Pattinson's like, "You're a disgusting, vile animal. I cannot stand this, stomach this smell of you anymore." And I was like,
The farts, man, the farts.
the scene where Robert Pattinson sneaks up to try and get a look in the lighthouse, and
Yes.
Willem Dafoe's bashing one out, and then you get this, and then you just see this like cum dribble come down. Did you think Robert Pattinson was going to lick it, or was it just me? He leant right in and sort of went, and like opened his mouth, and I'm going, "Don't do it, don't do it." Oh no, he didn't do it. And then there's a weird tentacle. This is where I started to. This movie is a representation of slipping into madness. And if you watch it with no sort of context, like I went into this with no knowledge of
I
the
did as
Greek
well.
mythology, and like it really does make you go, "What? There's a tentacle."
Yeah.
And then there's bits like Robert Pattinson loses his shit, and they're drinking heavily at this point, and he chases him with an axe. And then no, Willem Dafoe chases Robert Pattinson with an axe.
Yeah, because he tries to leave on the lifeboat, doesn't he? And Willem Dafoe smashes up the lifeboat as if to say, "No, you can't leave," and then chases him back into the house. But then when he gets into the house, Willem Dafoe character, which he has done a few times throughout, he does switch the narrative that we've seen play out on screen in order to enhance Robert Pattinson's decline in psyche, and basically says to him, "You just smashed up the life raft with an axe and then chased me into the house with it," even though Willem Dafoe's character stood there with an axe in his hand. And it's like, hang about. But are we supposed to believe? Because as well, they tell us that Robert Pattinson's character is on the run, and his name isn't actually Winslow. His name is Thomas, and Winslow is a character that he says he watched his boss fall and die in a log landslide and did nothing to help. But it's also implied heavily that he kind of pushed him into the landslide, and he's on the run for a new life for murder. And then that kind of makes you think, right, well, maybe he is declining in madness because of the guilt that he's racked with for killing his previous employer, hence why he then adopted his name as well. There's just so much going on, man. There is so much going on, and I didn't know which side to believe. And I think that's probably one of the key reasons of why this movie is shot in black and white, is because both of these characters are so morally grey. There is neither one of the sides of it that you can pick to choose from. And again, it's just another foreshadowing of the movie itself. And like, it's so clever, it's so intelligent, man, and it's just so above my pay grade. I'm going to be honest with you.
The thing is, though, it's so clever and it's so intelligent in how it's put together, and this kind of constant misdirect. It reminds me a little bit of movies like The Shining, more so the book. So The Shining, the book, is very much about Jack going mad and suffering with alcoholism, and that is what happens in this. It's also very American Psycho-esque, where we're seeing the movie through the eyes of someone who's very unreliable. So like American Psycho, we see it through Patrick Bateman, who is a psycho. So there's lots of times we're going, is this real? Is this not? In this, we're seeing it through Willem Dafoe, who is a chronic alcoholic.
So that's what I was going to say. Do you see this through his eyes, or do you see it through Robert Pattinson's eyes?
I see it a bit
because I think it switches various. Yeah, I think it switches between the two. I think it's very much Robert Pattinson for the first 40 to 50 minutes, and then it kind of does this weird turn where you are then more following Willem Dafoe's character, and then once again at the end it flips it back onto Robert Pattinson's character, and it's hard to, again. very morally grey on whose side you're supposed to be on. And I think because both of them are so suspected as just not nice people or have hidden past, like the conversation with his leg, and he said he'd broken because he's got a peg leg as Willem Dafoe's character, which I didn't realize at first, even though you see it multiple times throughout the film because it's so fucking grainy and dark. He's always got his Wellington boot on, but when he takes his welly off, he has actually got a peg leg. But he explains at one point that it was broken in some way or another. And then they have a similar conversation later again where he changes the story about how he lost his leg. And Robert Pattinson pulls him up on it. And Willem Dafoe's just like, no, I didn't say that. I'm like, but you did. I saw you say it on screen. I saw the conversation. So who's wrong here?
Yeah, and he says, you must have remembered it wrong, lad. And I love that as well. Like the fact he always refers to him as lad. And he's like, look, call me Winslow. He's like, lad Winslow. And he always has to, even like later in the movie where things have really gone to shit, he still calls him lad. Like he won't let go
up until the point where he finds out about him killing his boss. And then he is very, very on it with the Tom Thomas, like reiterating his shameful past to him.
Yeah. We're going to have to do it. I don't know how we're going to do this delicately. This is an art house episode. How do we discuss the mermaid and not slip into our normal it's a mermaid pussy routine?
We don't. It was fat fish pussy, mate. That's all it was on screen, and I didn't know where to look. I watched this with my wife, and that's one of the biggest mistakes I've made, is because The Witch is probably going to be more our thing. But I was like, oh no, we need to watch The Lighthouse. You know, you like intelligent films, you like things that have hidden messages and hidden meaning. I think we're really going to enjoy this together. It was a bad call on my part, I'll be honest with you, because she was bored out of her mind for the first hour, and then the rapey mermaids turned up, and she was just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Like he finds the mermaids in the reeds, and like he uncovers her face. I was like, holy shit, it's a mermaid. And then he has a grope of her boob, and I'm like,
I mean, he doesn't know it's a mermaid at this point as well. He thinks it's just a dead woman washed up on the beach, and he's having a good feel.
Yeah, which is wrong. And then, like, it does this panning back shot, and as it sort of pans back and up, it's just like literally dead center of the screen. This big. I've got a fact. I'll use it early. The vagina design was taken from a shark.
Right, because my biggest thought in this moment was due to the sheer size of it, because it covers like 40% of her lower half. Is like, what is it having sex with? Because I don't think I would be able to touch the sides on this thing. I'm going to be honest with you.
You'd give it a good go, though.
I'd be like Mr. Bean. I'd be resorting to the Mr. Bean with a turkey on the head thing and just go shoulders first. I don't know what else I'd have to do in that moment.
The thing is, mermaid, I know a little bit about mermaid lore. So mermaids used to be split-legged creatures. They used to have two fins, and then their legs would open, and there was a vagina there because, of course, horny seamen, that's what they want the mermaid to have. And then when the Victorian era started, those legs got stitched together, and that become one giant fin with no orifice to use down there. And so originally they were, I don't know. It's just the mermaid is a weird addition, and it's just another step of, is he losing his mind? Is there something supernatural happening here? Is this slipping into sort of Lovecraftian horror, or is he just mental?
But again, it just like you can see it from a different side as well, because it's Tom or Captain Thomas who explains to him about the mermaids, because he's asking what happened to the previous guy who worked under him, the previous attendee of the lighthouse, and he's like, oh, he went mad, lost his mind, started having visions of mermaids and all the rest of it. And it's like, did he implant that in his brain? Is he the curator of this entire situation? You know, and like when he missed his boat, or the boat that didn't turn up, that was the night prior to them getting absolutely smashed legless, that they both passed out on the floor. Did he do that intentionally to keep him there? So he missed his boat and he couldn't get off the island. You know, it's like, did he do this whole thing? Did he sort and create the situation that they found themselves in? And again, like you just go back and forth between the two, and it's like he changes his narrative all the time to make him think he's losing his mind, and then he's also implanted the seed in his head about mermaids. And
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I think it's just because Robert Pattinson's character is such a fragile person due to his past life that he's running away from, that Willem Dafoe's character is completely manipulating the situation to his advantage.
yeah,
But I don't understand why. It never gives us any reasoning.
no, it gives us no reasoning at all, and there is an underlying attraction between the two. Like I said to you off air, I watched this going, are they going to shag? Are they not going to shag? Are they getting together? Are they not? And I don't know if that's intentionally there, but there's definitely that tension and that chemistry between these two characters. Like when they get blind drunk, and they, like you and me have been out and we've got blind drunk.
Whoa! Just watch where you go
yeah,
with this conversation.
But I don't.
I know,
think,
but I've just seen the basis of the setup, and I just thought you talking about me and you getting blind drunk, and I just want you to be careful what you say on air.
I don't think we've got this drunk. Like we've never, like we've got drunk, we've danced, we've fallen around, we've been sick. At no point have we done like a slow dance alone in a lighthouse.
No,
we've not been there.
No, we've never locked eyes in a heat of passion. Not yet, anyway.
There's still time. That's getting some calls next week. This will lead. No, before we go to where this leads, I have to go back to the seagulls. The seagulls are an integral part of this. So, Willem Dafoe explains that. So, at the beginning, Robert Pattinson kicks a seagull away from him. Very determined seagull, and Willem Dafoe tears him a new arsehole and says, "You don't fuck with the seabirds. The seabirds carry the souls of fallen seamen. They are seagoing men who now reside in birds. You don't fuck with them." And these birds, or this one seagull, torments Robert Pattinson, almost taunts him throughout the entire movie. And then it poisons the water supply. There was 2 dead seagulls in there. And there's other seagulls there going, see? Dead seagulls in your water. I have never seen a bird.
The seagull, man. Fucking hell.
I have never seen a bird be more brutally killed in my life ever.
No, not at all. And I worked in a poultry factory once. Have I had this conversation with you before about my poultry days?
You have, not on the air though.
No, so I used to work in a poultry factory when I was younger. It's like a family run business on my dad's side. They all have like this poultry thing, where they sort of like collect up the birds from the tent and then put them in crates to go off to be slaughtered and served to you in Asda in cling film. But we used to catch them, and you don't just go in with a shotgun and blast them all out. What you do is, birds are really stupid, especially chickens. So what they do. This is going well off tangent, but I'm going to tell it because I've already started now. What they do is you go inside the chicken coop, which is not like the chicken coop you'd see on children's TV shows where it's like a little shed in the garden. These like big, massive barn warehouse things with like thousands and thousands of chickens in. And you turn the lights on all the way through, and then you walk back and forwards down the center of the barn clapping, and then they escape the noise and go to the sides. And then what you do is you turn all the lights off in pitch blackness because they don't move. They can't move in the dark. They just freeze. And then the forklift comes in and out with these big stack of crates. And you basically have to pick them all up and scoop them all up. And like you grab them by the feet and just chuck them in the crates, fill them up with like 5 birds and shut the lid and they go off. I'm sure you've seen them down the motorway where they've got like those blue and yellow crates. But anyway, occasionally like a bird would get hit by a forklift and stuff, and you'd have to put it out of its misery. And what they used to do, I never did it because I'm one of those people where if I hit a rabbit on the road in the middle of the night, I lose sleep for about 3 nights. They used to grab them, and apparently the most humane way to do it was to grab it by its head and whip it around like a tea towel till its neck breaks.
Oh, man.
Mate, I lasted about a week, and I was like, you know what? This just is not worth the money for me. I'm out. And I was only there doing a favor for a family because an employee had dropped out. But yeah, it's brutal. And then the sheer terror and the flashbacks I had when watching this movie consumed my mind because this is just shocking. It's a similar sort of thing. He picks the seagull up and he just whack-a-moles it against this rock, but
For ages.
repeatedly until
It's about a minute and a half. He beats the seagull to death on the rock, and then when he's done, he sort of looks at it and he goes, "Ah!" like screams at it, like fuck you, seagull.
yeah. But this is the turning point for the movie, because what he does is after he's killed the seagull, the wind changes, and that's when the shitstorm begins. And then I say the shitstorm begins, it doesn't. We still have another 40 minutes of character development and slow burn before we get the last 10 minutes of payoff at the end.
Yeah, and as good as the character development is, it doesn't translate well to podcast. So we'll skip to the end where he has his full-on meltdown with Willem Dafoe, and he's like, basically, I'm going to kill you now. And
this was so good, though.
Yeah, I love this.
I like the turn in his character, because what happens is they have the big confession thing the night before where he explains to him of his previous life. They wake up in the morning, and then already, by the way, we've had some insinuations prior that Robert Pattinson's character was going to kill Willem Dafoe's character. There's that scene where he creeps up on him in his bed. He's basically investigating. He wants the captain's log so he can see what he's writing, and he also wants to get into the light to see what's going on up there. And while Willem Dafoe's character is asleep, Robert Pattinson creeps in to get the keys. And as he gets the keys, he gets a knife as if he's going to slit his throat. But Willem Dafoe's character wakes up, and he's so calm and cool about it, as if to say, like, I wouldn't be doing that, laddie, or something he says. Yeah. And he just walks off and ignores the situation. So we already know he has intentions. And when he flips, man, and when he goes, it is like full on domination. Like we talked about Willem Dafoe's domination over his character in the build-up. When Robert Pattinson's character goes and he gets him on that dog lead after beating him to a pulp. And again, the scene where he beats him to a pulp on the floor and you see all the tentacles behind Robert Pattinson's character. I don't know if you picked up on that, because
I did.
It tries to make you focus upon the actual fight scene, and it's there behind them. It's almost as if like he's now being taken over and he's now the captain of the Lighthouse, which I thought was a good sort of, I don't know what the intelligent word is to use for it, like a good metaphor of the change.
He's the man.
He's the man now. But then not only does he literally beat this old man to a pulp, he ties a dog lead around his neck and drags him out to bury him in the pit that they got the wine from earlier.
When he crawled out, I was watching this, Lisa. I sat and I went, for an old boy, he's in really good condition, because I don't think I could crawl up and down the terrain at the speed he crawled and then lie in the ground, like lie in this makeshift grave as easily as he did. Like he's very nimble for an old boy.
Willem Dafoe is buff as fuck, man. He's a bloke. That scene where I think it was a dream sequence, I can't remember properly, but where Robert Pattinson's outside and he sort of battles with himself.
Yeah,
which was very incredibly well shot. And then Willem Dafoe's character comes out completely naked and grabs him by the throat, and his eyes light up. That's like a Greek mythology image.
That's awesome as well.
Fucking incredible. Such a beautiful shot scene. But one thing that really impressed me is when Willem Dafoe's in the pit and they're chucking the mud on him. And you see it like lying on his chest. I was like, oh, he's a fucking A-lister actor. They're not gonna throw it on his face. And they start throwing it on his face, and it's going up his nose and in his eyes and in his mouth, and he's still pursuing with the scene and still doing his monologue, and all the mud's coming out of his fat. I was like, dude, that must taste fucking disgusting, and you're still going forward with the scene.
Because he was
at it.
Well, he was, if you watched him properly, he was like moving the dirt around his mouth to clump it together. And then spit
it out. And then saying his lines and still going like, oh, laddie, don't do this. And it was fucking brilliant, man. Honestly, these two in this movie, I have nothing but high praise for the pair of them, because this, regardless of what they do with the rest of their careers and the stuff that they've done prior to it, excluding Twilight, Robert Pattinson, I know you're trying to shake it, but it's never going to leave you, I'm afraid. I don't think they could do better. I don't think they will ever do better. I think when they die and they have like that whole ceremony at the Oscars where they've memorized, we'll give them a memoriam thing, it will all just be scenes of the two of them in the lighthouse.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And like he buries Willem Dafoe, and then he goes and he gets his wish. He wants to go up to the light. He goes up to the light. He looks
No,
stunned.
not yet. He doesn't.
What's
Not
he
yet.
do
He doesn't.
next?
He buries Willem Dafoe, but not quite buries him. He realizes that he's got his keys on him, so he digs him out a bit and nicks the keys off his chest. He goes back
Yeah.
inside the lighthouse, and Willem Dafoe chases him back inside and whams the axe in his shoulder.
That's right.
And he doesn't even flinch. He just pulls the axe out, pushes him on the floor, just buries it in Willem Dafoe's head, completely killing him there and then dead.
I don't know how I forgot that, but yeah, he does.
I don't know how you forgot that. It was one of the coolest scenes in the movie. I was like, fuck. One thing before we do get to the climax, because that's probably a good place to wrap this episode up. They start drinking heavily, and they're obviously both going out of it. And you see the lighthouse just depleting and getting more and more decrepit. It's starting to flood due to water ingress and things like that. Like, I don't get it. Is it why? Why, considering how strongly they both started on maintaining this building and stuff like that? I know they're losing it, but they're implying that Willem Dafoe's character isn't, but he's also slowly allowing the ship to sink, if you will, to use that as a metaphor.
It is a metaphor.
Not alcoholism, turpentine. Turpentine and honey, man, that'll fuck your brain right up.
When they run out of booze, they find the booze outside. They run out of booze, and then they're mixing. They've got some terps, and he gets this big spoonful of honey, gives it a stir, and like gives it a sip, and sort of goes, "Yeah, it's all right." And then Willem Dafoe takes a big sip and sort of does this, like almost like body jerk, like he's about to die. It was that strong, and then he's like, "Oh!" And then they drink it. I'm like, "Oh man, you two need like a meeting or like talk to someone or like you need some help right now."
Yeah, dude, it's yeah. If anything's going to send you mental, it is drinking absolute poison.
Yeah,
And I don't care what you garnish it with. No amount of mixology study is going to sort turpentine up.
No amount of honey is going to make that palatable. But yeah, he does climb the lighthouse stairs. He does get into the light where he's seen naked Willem Dafoe many times. He sees something that terrifies him, and we don't see it.
No.
And he falls all the way down the lighthouse to the floor. We then don't see it, but he drags himself out onto the stones. And the final shot of this movie is him being picked apart by the birds.
Yes.
Which, again, looks great. Like his guts are hanging out. He's lost an eye. Like, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
But,
and again, the Greek mythology thing, if you do your research into it, I can't justifiably explain it to you properly because I only understand it on a basic level. But it is all there and showcased how it should be. I like the ending. I do like the ending. I didn't want to see what was inside the light. I didn't need to see what was inside the light. I just don't like the implications of there being something there when I'd already made my mind up that it wasn't, and it was just the two of them and their descent into madness. So them visually representing stuff like the tentacles and the mermaids. And I know you have to do that to showcase a story and all the rest of it. But for me, it's just kind of like there has to be a better way to showcase that without putting stupid giant Power Ranger tentacles on a screen. Because let's be honest, they didn't look great. They didn't look the best. Do you know, like those boss villains in the Power Rangers where they like get super Megazord and fight in a city? It looked like a big giant one of those. And I was like, if you're gonna do it and you're gonna give me a movie monster at the end of the film that I'm gonna be like, wow. Do you know, like a lot of the times when they do the Cthulhu stuff, like underwater. Somebody request underwater for this fucking show, man. I've been wanting that since I started here. That is very much Cthulhu, and then they get the big Cthulhu at the end and the underwater scene, and it looks fucking fantastic. That then proves to me that that is a Cthulhu movie. Like, I know now that's what it is. That's what's caused this all the way through, even though all the way through the movie it suggested otherwise. Here it's suggested that that is it, and then it's not. You know, it's not paid off at the end. It's left to open to interpretation. And I just think, as much as I do like the two options, I don't think this movie did a very good job of handling the ambiguity of the two. You know, they throw too much in the mix.
See, I thought they'd done a really good job of deliberately leaving everything. Like, there is nothing in this movie, bar the opening 10 minutes, that I can categorically say happened.
No,
Everything in this is so, did that happen? Was that a dream? Did that happen? Is this actually something like, and it's a movie that leaves you with so many questions. Like, I could watch this 10 more times. I won't, but I could watch it 10 more times and I'm not going to get any answers. And I kind of like that in a way.
and I do. It was just more the visual representation of the mystical elements that I didn't particularly enjoy. I just felt it didn't need to be there, in my opinion. I felt like the suggestion was enough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know how they would have suggested it any better. That's my point. Like, I'm criticizing it, but I couldn't give you a better alternate to the solution. Do you know?
No. How can you give a better alternative to insinuating giant mermaid pussy than just showing it?
Exactly. That's my point. Like, there is no other way to showcase it without showcasing it. But I also feel like the movie didn't need it. I feel like they could have continued on the suggestive, is it him, kind of back and forth between the two of them and left their character interactions as the ambiguity of the elements of the story without having to showcase this creature feature side of things. And don't get me wrong, I don't dislike it, I don't hate it. I'm just saying, if I was to criticize a certain element on that level, that would kind of be the one thing that I would go to first and be like, that kind of didn't work for me, considering how grounded I found the rest of the story to be.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that kind of pulled me out a little bit and was like, but if you're going to do it, I need to see more, or I need at least a definitive of what that is. Do you know?
I'd agree with that. And I think us agreeing is a good place to take a break.
I take like one sip of my drink and then I drop my full drink right on the robot.
To hear the rest of this story and many others like it, mixed in with film reviews, music discussion and true crime, You Gonna Eat That Crust podcast is the place for you. Hosted by Ryan, Greg and Seamus, the Crusty Boys bring you something truly unique every single episode.
Jack is useless. He pulls out his knife and he immediately loses the knife.
While if in-depth film discussion covering all movie genres is your thing, then Movies for Days is the place for you. Hosted by Newman, this show is hilariously funny and so detailed. These and many other shows all available at yourunpodcast.com. So please go and check out the other members of the You Run Podcast Network. There are 16 other members plus our shows on there and our shop. There's so much on yourunpodcast.com, so please go and check that out. Also, if you're looking for something really cool to check out, we're bringing back a feature that has been gone for quite a while, and it's back by popular demand. We've had more than one person request it via message and one person on the air request it as well. So here is Mark's recommended account of the week. I haven't got any intro music for you, so you can have...
What?
I don't know. Let's have this one.
Case closed. Let's get drunk.
Well, that is very fucking underwhelming for my first day back on this job, you know? Not gonna lie.
If you want,
bitterly disappointed with your efforts here.
Let me try again.
That's better. I like that. Oh yeah.
Credit to Jackass 2 and Party Boy for the use of that music. Please don't copyright strike me.
Oh, right. It's been a while. I'll see if I can get myself back into the swing of this, but here we go. This week's recommended account is Final Girl. You can find her on Instagram by tagging in finalgirl.jpg. This account is a very broad horror account that specializes in all things horror, giving you stuff like dates. So like they'll put posts commemorating like movie release dates. This came out on this date and so and so, so and so. They share artwork of people's horrors and even of their own stuff. One thing that particularly draws me in with this account is they post things. It's basically like a TV screen. It's a reel, but it's a TV screen on the middle of the street. But then the actual clip that they're showcasing is playing on the TV in the middle of the street. And they always showcase some really cool scenes throughout horror history. And movies that I forget quite a lot are out there. So I've watched quite a fair few movies in recent months based solely on this account, bringing them to the forefront. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about that movie. That's really cool. I'm going to go check that out. So yeah, they basically have a wide variety of all things horror. So if you are a horror fan, and judging by the fact that you're listening to this podcast, I would assume so, this is a great account to add to your arsenal of doom scrolling. I'm sure it will keep you entertained for hours. So go and check it out at finalgirl.jpg on Instagram. She may have other accounts, but I'm an old geezer and I literally specialize in Instagram and Instagram alone.
And it's an account I follow as well. It's one that as soon as you said it, I was like, yes, that's a fucking cool account. I follow that account. Loads of inspiration on there for, like, if you look at their account and you'll see a reel that they've done. If I've seen that reel, guaranteed within a week or so, there'll be a reel to do with something about the movie they've shared, because it's a movie that I'll go, I've not seen that in 25 years. Where did you find that? It's a really cool account.
Exactly that. And because recommended account of the week is back, I have various ones that I will be showcasing in the coming weeks. But not only that, but if you have been nominated before but feel like your account has changed, has grown, or you would like to be renominated because you felt like maybe you were on an episode people might not have listened to as much as they listened to a certain episode, drop me a DM, say, I think I'm worthy of recommended account of the week. Will you showcase mine for me? I would be more than happy to do so.
What's your Instagram handle? I'm just gonna send you a message.
Yeah. Dude, we get plugged about 50 times throughout a single episode. We don't need any more. But no, all seriousness, if you feel like, yeah, I'd like you to shout mine out, I'm more than happy to do so. Drop me a message. Tell me what your page is about. Send me some of your content. And if it's worthy enough, and I think that our listeners would appreciate it, you will be instantly added into the backlog of accounts that are going to get showcased in the coming months.
Yeah. Before we get into facts, I just want to address our background image. Like when I picked it, and when you could see the entire image and it's not slightly obscured by you and me, it looks completely fine. It's Robert Pattinson holding a statue of a mermaid. I think I may have to argue this with YouTube when it goes on YouTube, because it does very much look like Robert Pattinson holding his cock.
And looking down on both of me and you.
It's like he's masturbating over us, and I'm not sure how comfortable I feel about that.
Yeah, I've not been very comfortable about it the whole episode. So
to be fair, though, it is Robert Pattinson, and in this movie, he is a hunk of a man. And I think if ever I was going to go gay, like it would be for someone like Robert Pattinson. Like look at his abs. Look at that man. He's a physique.
He also twinkles in the sun, so there's that as well.
An Adonis. As I said at the start of the episode, this is the nerdiest of nerdiest nerd films in nerd film history. There are some pretty impressive facts because it is that kind of movie. Also, there's a fact I wanted to share that's not kind of a fact, but it's a fact for me. The seagull in this that torments Robert Pattinson, then brutally killed by Robert Pattinson, is a seagull called Sully. And it is the exact same seagull that starred in The Shallows. I rest my case. This bird deserves a fucking Oscar.
There is no fucking way on this earth that is the same bird. I want proof. I need proof sent to me immediately.
It's 100% the same bird. And when I found that, I was like, this is the greatest day in my life, because this bird has gone from like The Shallows to an Oscar-worthy performance in The Lighthouse. What a career.
Man, that is incredible. He's going to have his own IMDb page soon.
He has got his own IMDb page. He's also going to have a story at some point as well. This film was shot with really old film. It was shot in what's called double X stock black and white, which to get exposed needs extra lighting. So we said earlier, this movie is very dark. Every single scene in this movie, day or night, was lit 15 to 20 times brighter than required to get the film to expose. It was lit so much so that the cast and crew wore sunglasses for 90% of this shoot.
Wow. I would love to see a cut of this on a normal camera.
Like, this was filmed like that. They used what have they got? I've got actual information about it. They had 500 to 800 halogen watt bulbs that were blindingly bright, shone straight at the actors and at the set, and backlit to light like the forefront on every scene. And everyone sat there in these massive black shades, apart from Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, is just like blinded by the light.
Just walking around into walls after the lights went out because they couldn't adjust to normal daylight.
It's just madness. And again,
the thing is though, like, it looks so crisp. Like, I mean, watching this movie, I was like, yeah, this dude is the perfect person to direct the Nosferatu remake, because this is a homage to that sort of era of filmmaking.
Yeah.
One thing I found really difficult to adjust to is because it is filmed in that same sort of vein, everything's so crisp and polished. Like, it is so clean, it is so crisp, but it's also filmed in the same similar techniques. And it's very, very jarring, man. It took me ages to adjust to it, because I've seen my fair share of like black and white films, like the old Draculas and Swamp Thing and all the rest of it. But like, seeing it done on a modern scale is strange. It's strange, man, because it feels out of place, you know. But then as I fell into it more, it only enhanced and highlighted the experience of the movie, because everything was so polished and everything was so crisp. And seeing it on a black and white scale, just the corridor shots and the scenes looking down from the top of the lighthouse down the spiral staircase, everything was just perfect and just so glowing and so in your face for a black and white movie. I was like, it's just beautiful, man. It's such a beautifully shot movie. It really, really is.
It's a stunning movie. There's no question about it. Script wise, there was a script of this that gave the clear, definitive ending that you wanted. It was Robert Eggers that went, no, we need to take that away. This movie's meant to be about slipping into madness. And I want the audience at the end of this to go, what did I just watch?
Which I did.
So did I. He achieved his goal. All of the weather effects in this, apart from, you know, the bit where it blows out like the side of the lighthouse?
Yeah.
Like, that's the only effect. All of the weather conditions in this, the rain, the wind, everything, is just because they shot in a really shitty place at a really shitty time of the year. And all of the rain, all of the wind, all of the sea, all of the storms, that was happening when they were filming.
Man, we didn't even talk about it on the episode, but that scene where he throws the shit buckets off the side of the cliff and the wind just blows them all back in his face, that was horrible, man.
Yeah, but that was genuinely the conditions that they worked under. The mermaid carving that Robert Pattinson is holding in the image behind us and masturbates over multiple times in the movie was auctioned by A24 during the COVID-19 pandemic to raise money for New York City food banks. How much do you reckon that sold for?
It's going to be something stupid, isn't it? It's going to be, there'll be like some film nerd out there who has just swallowed this up for for his life savings.
It was £110,750. Wow. That's pound, not dollars.
Or a little ornament that they probably found on a car boot somewhere in order to use the prop in this movie.
But Robert Pattinson has masturbated over it. I think it's worth more than that.
Maybe it was Kirsten Stewart who bought
it. Either that or Heather. Heather, did you buy the lighthouse and all of the buildings you see in this movie didn't exist before they rocked up on set. All of these are hand-built purposely for this movie. They used wooden frames and then cladded them with weatherproof material that looked like stone. All of the internal shots they couldn't fit in their shot, so they had to use sound stages, but the actual lighthouse and the outbuildings were all purpose-built for this production. I
thought the lighthouse was a real place, like the actual lighthouse itself. Oh, okay.
No,
maybe that was
purpose. Even the lens, so the lighthouse lens, like that was custom built to the specs of their specific size lighthouse. They went to a lens maker and went, "We need you to make a working Lighthouse lens this size. Can you do it, please?"
Wow, that's impressive.
Really, really, really cool. It was loved so much by the locals that they didn't want it taken down. They wanted to keep it. They thought, this is really cool. Like, people will flock to
Yeah,
come
of course,
see
it's
this.
a tourist attraction, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was made of wood, and it wasn't a
On the edge of the
long-standing.
sea, so it's probably not going to stay there forever.
No, so they took it down. So Robert Eggers said he knew he wanted this in black and white from the start. And when he went to get finances for this movie, he said, it's going to be in black and white. It's going to be shot in 1.19 like square ratio, like screen ratio.
Yeah.
He lost $6.5 million of initial investment.
Wow.
People were just like, absolutely not. You can't do that. We're not interested. And loads of people pulled out, and he lost a shitload of money from his budget.
Was this his second movie then after The Witch?
I think this was his second. I think he may have
He's
shot
done
this.
The Witch, then he did this, and then I think it was The Northman.
The
and then now he's
Northman's.
done.
Yeah, Northman's incredible. Yeah, I think this was his second.
Yeah. What was the budget? Do you know?
I do. It was $11 million to make this movie.
The gross?
Not so good. 18 million worldwide.
Yeah, but man, this is cult following status immediately.
This is one of those movies that it didn't make a lot of the box office. It probably made a decent chunk when it went to streaming. But this is a movie that will stand the test of time, like Psycho.
Yeah.
This is something that there's so much in this that's innovative and groundbreaking and different that, like I said earlier, film students in 2050 will be talking about The Lighthouse the same way that film students in the 90s talked about Psycho. It's that good.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
We have some voicemails. So over the holiday period, I put out a post on Instagram that said, "Don't forget, you can send us a voicemail." Anyway, we have a voicemail first off from Dave. This goes back to, I can't think, what episode did we talk about Brighton Beach? I want to say it was Terrifier or Krampus. It was one of those Christmas episodes.
Probably Terrifier, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But we rubbed Dave the wrong way anyway.
Come on, guys. You almost gave me no reason to attack you this week. But Brighton Beach has lovely blue water. It also has pebbles and not sand, which sucks, but come on. And yes, by the way, I do live in Brighton.
I remember now. Yeah, we were taking the piss out of Brighton Beach for being a rock.
We were with a one pier that works and one pier that's like ashes and like matchstick.
I'm trying for the life of me to think about what the hell we were talking about.
We go on some weird tangents.
We do. That's very good. Dave, more context next time would be much appreciated.
and apologies, Dave, as well. We don't mean to insult Brighton. I've been to Brighton many times. It's a lovely place, and many of our listeners come from there. Many of the members of the Euron podcast podcast network come from Brighton as well. Shout out to Jay. Yeah, Jay, Girl and the Gay.
Hi, it's Jay.
Yeah.
Hi, Jay. How's the beach?
Jay, can you call in and confirm whether Brighton Beach is blue sea or not? We did receive another voicemail, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is for you. This is not a voicemail for me.
No context, just that. I take back what I said to you, Dave. That was the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. Why? Why would I even encourage a voicemail like that? What have we said?
I have no idea, but that message was just for you.
But why and who from? Like, what is going on there?
I don't. It's just a dirty call. Maybe it's Robert Pattinson when he was like holding the mermaid. I know who that message was from, and I'll share it when I release this episode on the story, so everyone else knows who that was from as well.
Have I done something to encourage that?
I don't know. You're a pretty hunky man. We spoke about your physique on the Terminator message.
Maybe that's what brought it on.
Remember, if you want to hear your voice or your perverted groans on the You Run podcast, you can. All you need to do is go to X or Instagram, go to send us a DM, hold the microphone button down, and when you let it go, whatever you said comes to us. We've had some comments on Spotify as well. Only a couple. I didn't want to pick all of them. We've had loads, but I've picked a couple. Lady Krampus, no, Lady Crisis on the Krampus episode. Great episode. Not a perfect movie, but I actually really enjoy this one. Fun fact, back in my days as a server, I waited on David Koshner. He's the Make America Great dad. He was super nice and he tipped really well. That's cool.
Yeah, I like him. That I couldn't remember his name on the Krampus episode, but I do vaguely remember saying how much I like him as an actor.
Yeah, you did. Also, everyone, tip your servers. Like, they earn fuck all. Like, for the sake of 10%, give them something. We also had Becky, Girl in the Gay podcast, or This Girl Loves Horror, on the Terrifier 3. I have thoughts on this movie after watching it last night. Great episode, guys. Merry Christmas. Firstly, Becky, if you're going to leave us a message, what are your thoughts? Like, I know what your thoughts are because I read your review on Instagram. Everyone else could do the same as well. It's This Girl Loves Horror. Wonderful review on Terrifier 3. But if you're going to call it, if you're going to leave a message, like, give us some context so we can discuss your thoughts.
That's a recurring theme this week, isn't it?
Yeah, she thought it was weird, like we did. Like, there was lots of it. She was like, "What the fuck is that?"
No, I didn't. I was all singing and dancing over Terrifier 3. I thought it was the best one so far.
Yeah, well, bad opinions and all that. Anyway, caption this. We asked you to caption this image, as the image on your screen, if you're watching, clearly shows. I was really skeptical. I put that image out. I'm like, we're going to get nothing. I was so wrong. So wrong. My name is Taylor. Bella's what? You know what the Volturi will think. And they're a horror account. Mike the Movie Misfit also delved into other films and went, Spider-Man? Who's this Spider-Man you keep talking about, Bruce? He's also a horror account. Mondo Street SC, members of the You Run Podcast Network, they've got with Between the Facts. For the last time, you're not Batman. Now go and change the fucking bulb.
Man.
Now, Skellington fan, Skelly, who great friend of the show. I don't know if this was aimed at this image or aimed directly at you.
Me?
It could be at you. I'm not sure. Who said you could grow a mustache? And that's Skellington fan on Instagram.
She's been on a binge, hasn't she, at the moment?
Oh, yeah. A huge thank you to Skelly. Like, over Christmas, Skelly's had a very busy year. And when she had like this break for Christmas, over 3 days, she consumed like 35 hours of us.
Yeah, it was insane. Like, I was getting tagged like every 2 hours, like, on to the next one, on to the next one. I'm like, surely you must need to stop and eat some food or something.
I would need a break from us after 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
definitely.
She did like 18 hours solid of the You Run podcast.
Hey, well, you know, fair play, man, fair play.
Yeah, huge thanks. If anyone else can outdo that, like, someone tag me like every time you listen to an episode. If someone can out binge Skelly, I will be incredibly impressed. I don't think it can be done.
No, I think you should have done that for charity, to be honest with you, Skelly, because that was an impressive feat.
I would have paid you. I would pay people to listen to the episodes like in that frequency.
No, we can't do that. We can't.
Can we not? Yeah. Finally, dissect that film pod. Have you ever fucked a mermaid?
This film had me curious, man. I'm not going to lie to you.
To be fair, like, I don't know. Let's be honest. We're going to discuss it now. You brought it up. Like the olden time mermaids, that the fin split and there was something there. I'm kind of invested in that. But the mermaid with the full-on fin and the big, like, I don't know, beef hole. I don't know. I'm not as sold on that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not as much.
I know what you're saying, yeah. Like, the thing is, like, when you say as like a split, you've got something to go in between of, which is a normal way. But then you being the split, I don't know how that would work and how comfortable. I'd get cramp, I think. I'd get cramp.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go old school like you.
Yeah, moving swiftly on. There is no game this week. No game whatsoever, because we've been running a competition for the last, I don't know, whenever we decided to run it. People have been commenting. Yeah, people have been commenting on an episode. People are leaving us 5-star reviews. And every time they've done that, we've entered them into a spin wheel to win some of our wonderful merchandise like this.
Lovely.
And today we're going to do the spin wheel. I tried to be really clever and put it live into the episode, and that didn't work. So I spun the wheel, recorded it, and I'm going to put that into the episode. But it is just a one spin and done.
You'll see it. It's not a fixed thing. It's just can't incorporate it onto the episode live.
It's not a fixed thing. It's just I don't have the technical ability to do what I initially wanted to do. But you will see a spinny wheel now. If you're listening in audio form, this is going to be quite dull for you for the next 18 seconds. So stick with it. Here we go. Let's find out who won our competition.
Is that
huge? It is Dave B Movies. Huge congratulations, Dave, who commented on pretty much every single episode since we launched that, and also left us a 5-star review as well. Dave, I'll drop you a message in the next couple of days, and we'll hash out. In fact, Mark's already got your address because you offered him to go fight you.
He did send me his address as well.
But we'll get your address. We'll let you pick 3 pieces of merch from the website, and we'll get those sent out to you. So congratulations.
Yes.
I'm going to let you round this up next. You can go first.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got a great deal to say, really. I think this is an incredibly shot movie. I think it's very, very beautiful visually. As a director, I think Robert Eggers is worthy of all the praise and recognition he has been getting in recent years. I mean, if anything, this movie just showcases how talented this guy is as what he can visually represent on screen. The performances from Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, as I've already mentioned, I think they're going to struggle to ever top this in their careers again. I would love to be proven wrong, and I would love to see them both go on to do bigger things and better things than what they've done here. I just can't see it. Once every now and again you watch a movie with an actor and you're like, that is peak. You have shown me every single ounce of what you have to offer, and this movie does that, not just for one actor but for both of them, which is just incredible to watch. But at the same time, this is not a movie I will ever go back and voluntarily rewatch. My opinion might change in 5-6 years' time, but I'm not going to pick this up next year. I'm certainly not going to be in any rush to watch it again anytime soon. And that's not because it's not an enjoyable movie to watch for the eyes. It's just the story is a very, very slow burn, which I like slow burns. I love slow burn movies, but they need to pay off. And I don't think this movie does, for me, satisfactory enough for me to be like, yes, I get it now. Because I didn't. The payoff required me to then go off and learn 16 pages of Greek mythology to understand the contrasting parallels throughout this story, you know, and that's not the payoff I require for a 2-hour movie that is building towards something.
A film that comes with homework is not your idea of fun.
No, it's not. It's not. And you know, like, but now I understand it, and now I get that side of things. Maybe on a rewatch, it would probably be a bit more enjoyable for me. And is that a fault of my own failing education, or is that a fault of the movies for not representing it clearly enough for me to enjoy it during the experience of the film?
No,
and I don't know. That's something that I keep going back and forth on.
It's a failing of the UK education system.
Most possibly, yeah.
I didn't get it either, so it's fine.
I just think it should have been more clearly represented throughout the movie. But again, it's like it's just such an ambiguous movie. There is so many ways you can look at this. There's so many ways you can interpret this. And I think you said, yeah, he wanted to leave you walking out, making your own conclusions and your own opinions on the movie, which you certainly have the ability to do down many, many different avenues. I could speak to you about it. I could speak to certain people on the street about it. I could speak to my own wife about it. And I could guarantee that every single person who watches this film will have their own interpretation of what they perceived when watching it, which is a really, really clever feat to have. And I think it's impressive that he managed to do something like that, which gives such a variety of opinions and interpretations of what he was trying to represent, even though he himself knows his through narrative of the movie. I think it's masterful. I really think it's a masterful piece of cinema. There's nothing I can really criticize it for from a visual standpoint. But in terms of my enjoyment, and you know I base my scores on my enjoyments of movies, I'm going to have to give The Lighthouse a 2.5 out of 5. And that is purely based on my enjoyment alone and not any other contrasting elements. I've said how much I think it's a beautiful movie. I've said how powerful that I think the performances are. I just think for somebody who watches shitty B-movie slashers 90% of his life, this just went a little bit above my pay grade, I think. And I don't mean to take anything away from the movie in saying that. It's just personal taste, you know. I just think it's not for me. It's not that it's not for me, because I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. This is such a difficult movie to give an overall score on and a definitive answer to what you think it is. I don't know where you stand with your final roundup, but I just think to actually pinpoint a figure on this movie is probably one of the most difficult movies that we've encountered on this show to categorize as a
I've
number.
nailed it. I've nailed it. I know exactly.
Right, come on then. Let's hear what you've got to say. Let's see if you have nailed it.
This movie is beautifully shot. It's tense. It's brooding. The performances from all of the cast are incredible. Robert Pattinson showed me that he is more than just a sparkly vampire. Willem Dafoe showed me that he is not only Oscar worthy, but he is Oscar deserving in his role in this movie. As a film for film students, this is about as good as it can get, from the single shots to the panning shots to the use of camera equipment to the monologues that are shot in one take from 5 different angles that zoom in on his face and then come back. Like, all of that stuff from a film student perspective is incredible. There is no denying, as a piece of cinema, this is one of the best examples you will ever find in all of cinema history. That being said, it's not great. I found the performances captivating. The overall descent into madness I thought was great and interesting. But it took an hour and 50 minutes to actually go nowhere. Like, I can appreciate for what it is, but from an entertainment standpoint, for me personally, this is as exciting as watching paint dry. I was so bored going, let's get to the next bit. Like the scenes where like William Dafoe has his big meltdown about the lobsters, like that's great. I love that scene. But then after that scene, there's 18 minutes of fucking nothing. And it's like that all the way through. You get these incredible scenes. You're like, shit, wow, that's amazing. That's shot so well. The acting's so amazing. And then it's like, Robert Pattinson walking a wheelbarrow up a hill and slipping in the mud, and then standing there smoking a cigarette, looking upset. And like, I get it; it's arty and it's beautiful, but fuck me, it's boring. I could cut an hour out of this movie; you'd still get the same story. Like, I can't give this a mega high score purely for the fact that I didn't enjoy it as a movie. I enjoyed it as like
An
viewing
educational piece.
viewing a piece of cinema. Like, this was really enjoyable, but as watching it as a movie, I didn't like it. I appreciate it for what it is, but I don't know. It's not for me. Like, if you like really slow build, like really slow, I can't emphasize how slow the build is, cosmic horrors, then this might be for you. But for me, this is 100% a 2.5 out of 5. It's
Same
middle
scores,
of the
love
road.
it. But the
Yeah,
thing, do you know what's weird about it though? Is like if somebody said to me, "What do you think of the Lighthouse?" I would have
I'd say it's
nothing
great.
but positive things to say.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "It's fucking beautiful, man. It's probably one of the best made movies I've ever seen and watched." But again, I'm with you. Like, as entertainment, it's just not entertaining, you know, for that reason. Like, it's fucking difficult, man. It really, really is. And
Watch checks in this must have been. There was a point when me and Lisa went, "Oh, this looks like it's coming to the end," and I looked at I pushed the button on the remote. And I was like, "This has got 48 minutes left to go," and I don't know how this has got 48 minutes left to go.
well, I turned it off. I turned it off on my first viewing because it was ramping up to the climax, and I was so drawn out and so dragged out by the entire build up to it. I was like, if I watch this now, it's going to affect my appreciation of what I'm hoping the roundup's going to be. Although it didn't deliver on it, it definitely was worthy of me stopping the movie. I think I stopped it at like an hour and 20, and I think I had like 30 minutes to go. And then I picked it up the following day with a fresh head and watched the last 30 minutes. And I really enjoyed the last 30 minutes because I'd separated myself from that drag that I had to endure. And that for me made it a much more enjoyable experience to tie the movie up. But again, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to be like, right, I'm getting to the point where I really need to pay attention, but I've just slogged through an hour and 30 minutes and I'd feel like it's going to sour my taste of the climax if I don't stop this now and take a break. Which is what I had to do. I had to just end it there and be like, I'm going to pick this back up tomorrow. Otherwise, it's just, I'm not going to enjoy what's coming next.
No, and I think that's a good place for us to start the year on an even keel. Oh, and did you hear? There was a boat reference and everything in there. That's one Eggers movie down. Be joined to join us next week for one of the movies you voted for, which is a deep dive into one of my all-time favorite horror movies ever. This sits in my top 3 horror movies of all time.
You've been recommending this movie to me since I've met you, and I still haven't watched it, so it will be a first-time watch for me.
Also directed by Robert Eggers, and if Mark does not like this, the amount of feuding next week when I deep dive and justify everything in this movie is going to be ridiculous. Next week, we are covering Robert Eggers' The Witch, which I still to this day think is his crowning glory. We have another Eggers movie this month as well, so maybe I'll change my mind. But as we stand now, this is the best film he's ever made. But until then, have a fabulous week. One more thing, recommend us to a friend. Steal a co-worker's phone. Go on their iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. Don't write anything. Do it quick. Just pinch your co-worker's phone, log into their iTunes, 5-star for You Run Podcast, put it back. If you're one of these people who steals mobile phones and then sells them on, before you sell them on, leave us a 5-star review, then sell the phone.
Yeah. I don't think we should be appealing to phone thieves.
At this point, to get reviews, I'll appeal to anyone. If you're running any sort of racket that involves mobile phones, 5-star review, then get rid of them. I'm happy with that. But until then, have a wonderful week, and we will catch you next time.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.
See you all later. Bye-bye.
You want to die tonight?
shows you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled. You run podcasts, horror movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled. Thank you for taking us on this chilling ride, when nightmares roll free and comedy collide. With your podcast we laugh and cringe, but your content is so good we can't help but binge. You run podcasts. You run podcasts.
No, mate.